Shalom. This is Ron Warren with the Nuggets of the Torah. This week's teaching is the 8th parsha of Exodus and is called Tetzaveh. It is written in Exodus chapter 28, verse 4, "These are the garments that are to make: a breastpiece, an etrog, a robe, a woolen tunic, a turban, and a sash. They are to make these sacred garments for your brother Aaron and his sons, so they may serve me as priests." Special clothing used in the priestly sect was nothing new in various Middle Eastern cultures, but it was new to Israel. Israel, at this point in their history, had no official priests. Whatever their worship had been until Exodus and Mount Sinai, it would have been very simple, personal, and rather unfocused. Israel was subjected by Egypt's gods to a religious system for most of their history as a people. Therefore, they adopted, somewhat subconsciously, the general understanding of how gods and religions work. The Egyptians' religious system becomes the lens through which Israel viewed the spirit world. God is not altering the principles of the religion of Israel to make them different from these principles. He has taught Adam and Eve, Noah, Abraham, and others, nor was he changing Israel's priesthood from one kind or purpose to another. God was continuing the process of separating Israel, step by step, from the ways of the corrupt world, Egypt, and establishing them as a completely set-apart people with a complete different religion and a nation unto themselves. And while in the process of becoming a totally unique nation, their purpose, serving God as a nation, was being established. The high priest's garments were full of teaching and symbolism. Throughout the Tanakh and the Brit Hadashah, certain pieces of his uniform carried very significant meanings, and the high priest's garments were also very prophetic. How? This comes from the 7 verses of Psalm 110 in combinations with Hebrews chapter 5. These passages speak of a different type of priesthood than Aaron's, and this new priesthood is patterned after the priesthood of Melchizedek. Psalm 110 verses 1 to 6 reads, "The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. The Lord will extend your mighty scepter from Zion, and he will rule in the midst of your enemies. Your troops will be willing on the day of battle. Arrayed in holy majesty, from the womb of the dawn you will receive the dew of your youth. The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. The Lord is at your right hand. He will crush kings on the day of his wrath, and he will judge the nations, heaping upon the dead and crushing the rulers of the whole earth." Psalm 110 is a messianic psalm. Melchizedek in Jewish writing is seen as a biblical type of the Messiah, and this theme repeats itself in the book of Hebrews. The priesthood of Melchizedek does not depend upon the descendant of the tribe of Levi. His priesthood was effective for both Israel and the nations, and is the perfect combination of king and the priest. Melchizedek and Yeshua are considered kings of righteousness and peace. Using Melchizedek and his unique priesthood as a type shows that the Messiah's priesthood is superior to the Levitical order and the priesthood of Aaron. You're going to see this in Hebrews chapter 7, verses 1 and 10. Now, in the caves where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, there were 13 fragments of Melchizedek, and from these fragments it appears that Qumran community believed that Melchizedek was the Messiah. According to one of these fragments, one of the names of Melchizedek is Holy Warrior. This also connects with Yeshua as the Holy Warrior in Revelation chapter 19. This is how the prophecy of Zechariah 6, verse 9 to 16 has come to pass. Psalm 110 predicted that such a priest would come, and according to Hebrews chapter 5 and 7, Yeshua is the fulfillment of that prediction. It is written in Exodus chapter 28, verse 36 and 27, "You shall also make a plate of pure gold, and you shall engrave on it like the gravings of a seal, holy to the Lord. And you shall fasten it on a blue cord, and it shall be on the turban, and it shall be in the front of the turban." Now, before the high priest of Israel, Aaron, was ever allowed to step beyond the second veil before the Holy of Holies, he had to be clothed in the right garments. Every high priest from the time of Aaron until the time that the temple was destroyed in 70 CE has had to wear similar garments. Anyone attempting to minister to the Lord without the proper attire is going to face rejection and death. Now, in the parable of the wedding feast that Yeshua related in Matthew chapter 22, verses 10 to 14, a person who did not have the right garments was bound hand and foot, taken away, and cast into outer darkness. And then it quotes a warning. "For many are called, but few are chosen." Before any person can pass beyond the veil of death and stand in the presence of our holy God, that person had better make sure that they have on the proper garments. Attached to the turban on the forehead of the high priest was the crown. A gold plate with the words "Holy to the Lord" was engraved. This seal of God is always present on the head of Yeshua because he is holy, Lord, and our great high priest. But what about us, whom he has also made priests? We're not just outwardly dressed in the Messiah, but Yeshua must occupy our heart and mind as well. It is written in Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, "I beseech you, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, and that you may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God." One day, there will be another wedding feast called the marriage supper of the Lamb. No one will be there without the proper garments. These garments will be pure white, made clean by the blood of the bridegroom, because without the blood of the bridegroom, the garments cannot be pure white. This forces a question. What condition are your garments? Shalom. Until next week with the nuggets of the Torah.